Chapter 14, we come to the first aorist active and middle indicative. Then we'll see some constructions with pistevo. The vocabulary of lesson 14, you'll see that there are 3 words. What he's doing is giving you the present tense, the future, and then the aorist active. These are regular. When we say first aorist, we mean regular aorist. So every one of these will be predictable from the present form. So when I say apolio, you know immediately, or you will know soon, that that would be the future. That would be apoliso, and then the aorist would be apelisa. So apolio, apoliso, apelisa, and I'd suggest you learn them just that way. Now you know then that this means I release, I shall release, I released. See? Now, akiriksa, I preached or proclaimed, is the aorist, the first aorist of kiriso. The sigma, sigma plus sigma equals xi. Remember that? Paragraph 156. Epistrepo, epistrepso, epistrepsa, I return or I turn. Again, that's the present, the future, and the aorist of epistrepo. Etimazo, etimaso, etimasa, I prepare. I shall prepare, I prepared. Ethi is another adverb which means already. Ethi, already. Thavmazo, thavmaso, ethavmasa is the word I wonder, I shall wonder, I wondered. All 3 of those forms are predictable. They are regular from thavmazo. Therapevo, therapevso, etherapevsa is the word I heal, I shall heal, I healed. And then pitho, piso, episa. Pitho means I persuade. Now, you won't forget that one. Pitho, piso, episa. I persuade, I shall persuade, I persuaded. And then pistevo, pistevso, epistevsa. I believe, I shall believe, I believed. And then epistrepo, epistrepso, epistrepsa. I return, I shall return, I returned. So the vocabulary then is vocabulary of the regular verbs. First aorist, remember, is regular aorist. Then we have the forms of the first aorist in paragraph 171 and 178. You'll see these behind me here. And again, because they're regular, all we do is, because it's augmented, we'll see that in a minute, but we have an augment, we have the present stem, and then we have the sign of the first aorist, the sigma alpha. And then we have the regular endings, which normally would be a ni there. Remember, for the secondary endings, there will be a ni, but there is no ni in the aorist active. But you have the sigma alpha, and then the sigma, and then the blank, and then the min, te, and then the ni again. So we learned them with the sigma, so we'll have some way to say it. Sa, or, no, sorry, we did without the sigma. A, as, e, amen, ate, an. A, as, e, amen, ate, an. Those are the forms of the aorist active. Sigma alpha being the characteristic. Then for the middle, and not middle and passive, but middle only, elisamin, and then it's min, o, ta, metha, ste, unda. Again, these are the same forms that you had for the imperfect, because they're both secondary tenses. The only difference is that this is an o, omega, rather than the u that you had in the imperfect. We'll see that in just a moment. The translation of this would be, this is the aorist here, I loosed, or I loosed for myself, for the middle. Now remember, a couple of lessons ago, we looked at this same kind of thing. In the present, we have one form, leo, and leo means I am loosing and I loose. Both of those are in present time. One, continuous action, the other, a point action. And again, when I say point, I'm using that very loosely, but it's just a way of using it for you right now. In the past, we have 2 different forms for that. One which means I was loosing, that was the imperfect, we had that before, eleon. And then Elisa, I loosed. And that would be the point action. So in the past time, continuous action, imperfect. Point action, aorist. Elisa, I loosed. Now, we need to put these forms in the workbook on page 23. So we want to get to your page 23 of your workbook. And we have, remember, the primary tenses and the secondary tenses. We already have put in the present and the imperfect. Now we want to put in the future and the first aorist. You see, we already have filled in your book, the present tense, and this was the same as this one, the imperfect tense, active, the middle and passive the same. Now we should fill in, I don't think we did this last time, we should fill in the future. If you haven't already done it, fill in the future active, future middle, but not the passive. Yeah, I guess we did do that. Then, the first aorist on this side, this is the secondary tense, has secondary endings. And then you fill that in right here, the active, and then the middle. Don't fill in the passive. The passive will be a different form, and we'll get that in another lesson. So fill those in, and we'll come back to that page when we get another tense. Now, the characteristics, go to your characteristic page, page 24, and you'll see over here on the chart the characteristics of the first aorist. Now, we're using the third person plural here, augment, divided in this way. Now, on page 24, you have a place for the first aorist. This is first aorist active. Put that in that section. This is called what? The augment, present stem, the sign of the aorist passive. I'm sorry, aorist active. Sign of the aorist active, sigma alpha. And then secondary active endings. Okay? By the way, I'm not doing this just to be doing it. I'm doing it, number one, because it's good for you. Number two, because I'm going to ask you a little later on some kind of a reincarnation, whether you've learned all of this. Then for the middle, not the middle and passive, just the middle, we have the same kind of a thing. Augment, present stem, sign of the aorist. Notice I'm saying aorist, not aorist. Aorist, and then the secondary middle endings. Secondary, middle, you can say middle or passive, endings. Now, back to the flip chart just a second, or to the workbook just a second. You know that we have, we talked about principal parts of irregular verbs, and we have in your workbook on page 28 a place where you can practice your principal parts, where you can get all the principal parts down of irregular verbs, get them all in one place, and then you can learn them. This sheet will be, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things, 6 columns: present, future, first aorist, perfect aorist active, perfect active, perfect middle, and then aorist passive. You ought to be able to be putting these in here. So get that page ready, and then on the chart I want to show you some of these forms. These are all irregular verbs. So in that first column you would put yinome, yinisame, yunomin. Now as we get the others, we'll get the perfect active and middle and passive and so forth. We'll get those as we go along, and we'll have all 6 of them, and you can begin to fill that in. But while you're at it, you ought to put these words in. These are some irregular verbs that I've chosen because they as they come up in the later chapters. That's why the order. There's no other order than that. Just the way they occur in Machen in these chapters. So put these down and take the time, stop it, put a stop frame on, and copy those down on that page 28, and then put them into your workbook, these forms, and I'll show you also where you can find the rest of them. Of course, you already know, I hope. In Machen, remember the dictionary in the back, the lexicon in the back from Greek to English? Well, look back there, starting with page 255, look those words up in order, and then you can write the principal parts down and begin to learn them in that way. Don't learn the words separately. If the first word, yinomeh, means become, then every part of that is going to be become. I shall become, I became, I have become, and so forth. That kind of thing will be helpful in learning your vocabulary, and as well as learning the various difficult forms in the New Testament. Now, one more paragraph calls for some attention, and that is paragraph 184 in Machen. He says the verb pistevo takes the dative, and you know what that means. It means that the object, the direct object, will be in the dative case. To anthropo in his example there in paragraph 184. He also mentions something I think is very interesting. The verb pistevo followed by is with the accusative is to be translated I believe in or on. So when you say pistevo iston kyrion, means I believe in the Lord or I believe on the Lord. But really that is not a full understanding of it. To believe in the Lord or believe on the Lord is not really all that's involved, as Machen goes on to say. It must not be supposed, however, that the preposition is with the accusative here really means in, like en with the dative. You don't just believe in someone, you don't just believe on someone, but you really place your trust into. So believing, pistevo, means to place your trust in Jesus Christ, not just believe on him as a historic person, not just believe in him as though you believe that he did some miracle or something, but to place your trust in him. I believe in him. I place my faith into Jesus Christ. That's what salvation is. And I think the Greek really helps us in understanding that believing is not just believing the facts about Jesus. It isn't just believing something that somebody rushed up and told you, but it's really doing the believing into the Lord Jesus. Now, the exercises then are exercises will be in page 85, first 10 Greek to English and first 5 English to Greek. Now, while you're doing this, it may be helpful for you to learn how to parse a verb. That is, to learn all the parts that you need to learn. And perhaps here on this sheet in the workbook, this is page, maybe we don't have a number on that page. It's placed in your workbook right after page 26, but it isn't 27, so it's right after 26. You'll see a sheet we call a parsing sheet. When you parse a verb, you give all the various details of the verb. Now, if you're doing this in the Bible, you would do it chapter and verse, like 1 John chapter 1, or maybe this would be 1 John up here, chapter 1, verse 1. And then you would put the form, find the form you find in the text, textual form, and then I've put down here elion. And then elion comes from the lexical form, is the vocabulary form leo. That form is imperfect, active, indicative, first singular. Now there's no gender in case in this particular verb, or in this verb form, but later on we'll be doing participles and they will have gender in case, so we have that on here as well. Then a translation. I was loosing. Look at the second one. Elisete, again from Leo. It is imperfect, active, indicative, second person plural. Ye were loosing. And then akuo, from akuo, it's present, active, indicative, first person singular, I am hearing, or I hear. Now that's the way you can do that. So take your, if you want, for your own practice, go through your exercises in that way. Put the lexical form, that is a form, a textual form that you find in the exercise, then put the original form, and then go on with this. I'll have no problem if you want to duplicate that, duplicate it, whatever you want to do with that. It isn't, that particular form is not copyrighted. And make some. In fact, I gave you an extra sheet so you could do it, a blank one, that you could run some off and do the parsing for your homework. Later on, when we get into 1 John, then we'll be doing parsing as a regular part of an assignment. So hang in there. You're really learning some good Greek here, and pretty soon you're going to be right into the New Testament and enjoying the Word.